Hi, my name is Phoebe Liebling. I've been a registered nutritional therapist for over a decade, and today I'm here in partnership with Megi to talk all about perimenopausal hair loss. Because for women, our hair is more than a physical feature. It's part of our identity. And so this can be an incredibly unsettling experience because it arrives during a life chapter already full of changes. So let's dive in. Perimenopause is the hormonal bridge between your reproductive years and menopause. It typically begins in your late 30s or 40s and can last several years. During this time, the ovaries gradually produce less estrogen and progesterone, the hormones that help regulate everything from your menstrual cycle to your muscle mass to, yes, your hair. Now, this transition is a roller coaster of fluctuating hormone levels, which can trigger a variety of symptoms: hot flashes, mood swings, sleep disruptions, and for the purpose of today's discussion, changes to your hair's thickness, texture, and volume. So some key signs that you might be entering perimenopause include irregular periods and changes to the length of your cycle and bleed, hot flashes or night sweats, mood swings or being more prone to anxiety, trouble sleeping, brain fog or memory blips, and thinning, brittle hair or increased amounts of shedding. So why is your hair changing? Well, we've got a few bits influencing this shift. The first being declining estrogen and progesterone levels, as these hormones help keep hair in the anagen, growth phase. So as they drop, more follicles shift into the resting, telogen phase, and that will lead to thinning and shedding. With less estrogen to then balance them, androgen hormones like testosterone can dominate, and some women are more genetically sensitive to those changes, what we term increased androgen sensitivity. And that can result in androgenic alopecia, a form of thinning similar to male pattern baldness. All of those hormone changes, they are stressful, both consciously and subconsciously. So higher perceived levels of stress raise our cortisol levels, which can push hair prematurely into the shedding telogen effluvium phase. God, these are great words, aren't they? Fluctuating estrogen can then also impact our thyroid function, and even subtle, also known as subclinical hypothyroidism, low thyroid function, can contribute to hair loss. And finally, we need to think about the building blocks for our hair, our key nutrients. Hormonal changes will affect gut health both directly and through that increased state of perceived stress, which can reduce absorption of those key nutrients needed for strong, healthy hair. So, how do we take back control? Now, one of my biggest bugbears is that a lot of women will just assume that they must accept that these issues are a given now that they are perimenopausal. And that is absolutely not the case. If you're watching this video having already experienced hair loss, then I have great news, because with the right tools, it is possible to regrow and strengthen hair. And if you think you might be entering perimenopause and want to prevent any such concerns from arising, then you can preemptively add in these measures to avoid ever having to consider coming back from them. Think of it like relining a canoe before holes appear. Why wait to spring a leak when you can avoid ever having to have one? And this is where Megi comes in. They are leading the charge in empowering women through this phase with science-backed, results-driven formulations that go deeper than surface care. I can personally attest to their efficacy, as you would have no idea that I experienced almost 70% shedding of my hair as a result of premature failure of my estrogen production in my early 20s. As you can see, my hair has fully recovered, even though my estrogen production never resumed. I adore the fact that the range was created by leading women within the natural hair care industry who were facing these challenges themselves and found that there was nothing they could turn to. They truly understand the multifaceted nature of hair loss, so there is a lot of love, care, and attention, as well as science, within these products. Okay, so now let's move on to the good bit. Let's talk about steps to rebuilding, or just building, your healthiest hair. And this is split into three main parts: the health and vitality of the scalp to support hair growth, our ability to produce the structural elements of hair properly as we age, and the impact of relative hormone levels as a driver for either hair growth or hair thinning. So I've broken this down into 4 steps. Step 1, we begin at the root, literally, because we need to build a wonderful foundation by nourishing the scalp, because this is where healthy hair starts. During perimenopause, scalp issues like dryness, sensitivity, and dandruff become more common, primarily due to the decline in estrogen, which controls skin hydration. Estrogen actually stimulates the production of hyaluronic acid, which holds moisture in the skin, and it also supports healthy sebum, oil, production from the sebaceous glands of the scalp. It is also responsible for strengthening the skin barrier, which is the outermost layer that protects against moisture loss and environmental irritants. So as it falls during perimenopause, your scalp will naturally produce less sebum, leading to drier, more fragile skin. The barrier can weaken, causing irritation and sensitivity, and we can also become more vulnerable to dandruff or psoriasis. I also just want to highlight that the effects of external factors will become more pronounced with those hormonal changes that are influencing the scalp barrier. So things like frequent washing with sulfate shampoos, lots of blow drying or use of heat styling, and exposure to harsh weather conditions when it's very cold, windy, or you're in very dry indoor central heating, as well as things like poor hydration or nutrient deficiencies, all bits that your scalp could easily withstand in your 20s and 30s suddenly start having a much bigger impact. Which is why all of the Megi products are infused with scalp nurturing ingredients to promote a healthy foundation for hair growth, as well as promoting repair to the hair and encouraging lovely strength and great shine. So we've got niacinamide and ACB biochelate 5PF, which is a fermented blend of 5 essential minerals, so zinc, iron, silicon, copper, and magnesium. And that will address scalp dryness, sebum imbalance, dandruff, and psoriasis all in one. So from the moment you start using them, you are directly enhancing scalp barrier function, which supports and feeds the scalp microbiome. Now, you might have heard of the gut microbiome, as in the bacteria and microorganisms that populate our digestive tract and are key to our health. Well, our scalp has one too. It is very specialised and stabilises the barrier. So you're going to get more growth, less inflammation, and more energy into the hair follicles. Hooray. Ormagel XPU is then going to boost moisture content by about 18% in chemically damaged hair. So if you've beaten your hair up over the years like I have, it'll sort all of that out for you, as well as improving shine and luster, all the good hair vibes. Syn Hair Restore is your deep hair repair. It comes from smart wheat protein. It's going in and repairing split ends, preventing easy breakage and giving back more of that manageability and shine. Because we can often lean on styling to try and make weaker hair look better, but in this situation, that's then going to make the problem worse. So these ingredients sort out the hair itself, and you can go back to the au naturel air dry style with confidence, if you are so inclined. Or you can blow dry without worrying it's going to damage your hair more. My favourite ingredient though is probably phytantriol, and not just because I've mastered saying it. In one application, it reduces split ends by 35%. 35%! It's also going to help keep moisture in the scalp and strengthen damaged hair ongoing, which is why I still use these products even now. So we're supporting the hair and scalp structurally at a foundational level, but then step 2, we've also got to consider its functional capacity. And this means we turn our attention to blood flow, as again, those perimenopausal hormone changes will impact this. Firstly, we see reduced microcirculation to the skin, all over the body, high aging skin. But keeping on track for today, notably weaker circulation to the scalp. And less fresh blood means fewer nutrients and less oxygen reaching those scalp cells, leading to poor scalp vitality and slower turnover of healthy skin cells. This will then exacerbate any dryness and flakiness, as well as driving hair loss. In my mind, I'm picturing a lawn after a very hot spell of weather in the summer. You know when the surface of the soil starts to become crumbly and can't hold grass or support it to grow, so you get those sort of brown thin patches? That's basically what's happening. So the use of caffeine in the topical Megi products actively stimulates blood circulation in the scalp, delivering oxygen and nutrients directly to hair follicles, combating that issue directly. It can also counteract the effects of DHT, a hormone linked to hair thinning that I'll talk about a little bit more in a sec, and it promotes stronger, thicker hair with consistent use. You've also got maca root extract, which is a powerful adaptogen that helps balance hormones and reduce stress-related hair loss, as well as increasing blood flow to the scalp, enhancing nutrient delivery to all of those wonderful follicles. It can actually revitalise dormant follicles as well, which means if you've been suffering with hair loss for a while, you don't have to worry that those follicles are dead and gone at this stage. They're just resting, and maca will come along and kick them back into gear. Now, we could go another layer deeper into the chemistry and talk about the decrease in estrogen during perimenopause causing a decrease in the production of nitric oxide, which is a compound that causes our blood vessels to relax. It's also lowering nitric oxide levels that contribute to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease as we move through perimenopause and into menopause. But because it's more integral to that tale, I'm going to save that science lesson for when we dive into that topic another day. But at a more functional level, what we need to know is that the outcome of lower nitric oxide is that blood vessels will constrict, so close down more easily. And we're going to see the impacts of that more significantly in peripheral areas like the scalp, where you've got teeny tiny blood vessels called capillaries bringing all the vital bits to those cells. If you compare that to a big old artery where a small amount of constriction isn't great, but it's also not going to have as much of an impact because the hose the blood was flowing through was bigger to start off with. But when we're talking about one cell wide capillaries, even a 1 to 2% squeeze is going to be a really big problem. So in summary, we've also got a whole tangle of things potentially reducing nutrient oxygen delivery to hair follicles, which you guessed it, means a lessened ability to grow healthy hair, but also a lowered ability to nourish and hold on to existing hair strands. So although hair follicles are considered singular units, they can produce more than one strand of hair per follicle, usually between 2 to 5 depending on the natural thickness of your hair. But as we see blood flow fall, you'll see that number decrease down to 1 to 2 strands per follicle quite quickly. And that's why many women will say their hair feels limp or fluffy or needs washing regularly to try and increase that sense of volume. So the Megi range contains 6 active ingredients clinically proven to stimulate growth and prolong the hair's anagen growth phase to combat all of those issues. The most well-known being Anagain from organic pea sprout extract, which in 3 months showed a 74% increase in anagen to telogen ratio, which is how long the hair stays in the growth stage. This combines with Capilla longa, which reactivates dormant hair follicles and nourishes the scalp, and in a similar time frame reduced hair loss by up to 89%, whilst increasing hair density by up to 52%. And with that, we then slide into step 3, which is to consider the changes to our ability to produce 2 key proteins, collagen and elastin. We're actually not very good at producing these from about the age of 30 onwards, and they are vital not just for our hair, but for our bones, joints, muscles, the gut lining, and other key structures. We love our hair, but it's lower on the pecking order than most of those, so our body will prioritize if it is low on stock of the building blocks it needs to make all of them. By the time we're heading into perimenopause, we need to be actively supplementing and supporting their production to avoid having to spread reserves too thinly. Preemptive support is even better if possible. Don't let those levels get down to critical before you dive in. Plenty of dietary protein and managing your stress response, as well as supplementing key cofactor nutrients, is the best option here. And the Megi Hair Growth Supplement covers every one of your bases in that respect. So step 4 is then the final couple of pieces of the puzzle, which are a shift towards androgen hormone dominance. As estrogen and progesterone fall, we get others like testosterone and DHT having more of a main part in our overall hormone picture. And this also ties into an activation of the stress response, because hormonal fluctuations are hugely stressful. Both of these cause hair follicles to get smaller and further reduces the amount of capillaries that are bringing nutrients and oxygen to them. Although I'm only touching on the androgen and stress response elements briefly at the end of my list, these are key in terms of hair thinning and shedding, but also in terms of all perimenopausal symptoms, whether that's anxiety, sleep issues, digestive changes, weight issues, hot flashes, hair, skin and nail changes, or a mix of them all. But I'm not going to get distracted because we can talk about all of those on another day. What I do really want to loop back around to though is an integral and yet often looked, or maybe just undervalued element of perimenopause. It's not just about the therapeutic benefits of the Megi range. I love the process of using them together as a way to give back a sense of investment into those parts of ourselves that make us feel like ourselves. Because a huge amount of these transitional years can feel pretty overwhelming. In a way similar to puberty, you're suddenly having to get used to living in a new skin, one that doesn't behave in the way it has done for as long as you'll likely remember. The seemingly small inclusion of massaging the serum into your scalp and taking the supplement every day, having those just for me products in the bathroom, these will give a sense of being in charge of something in a sea of things that can feel quite out of our control. We cannot change the perimenopause itself, it's going to happen, but we can definitely influence the tone of those changes on our well-being, sense of self, self-esteem and confidence. Micro investments build resilience. I actually read Annie Hindmarch's memoir a few years ago, and the title always stuck with me because it's "If in doubt, wash your hair." Because fresh hair, maybe a lick of mascara if that's your thing, those are our armour, the things that make us feel our best, like we can walk out into the world and be the person we want to be. I may be rambling at this point, but when I discuss health, it is so much more than how we eat and how we exercise. It's all of these factors tied together. So with that, I'm going to conclude by saying, yes, perimenopausal hair loss is common, but that doesn't mean it's inevitable or irreversible. I hope that I've been able to show you that with the right support, you can stop the shedding, spark regrowth, and restore your hair's natural vitality. Megi Wellness literally exists to help you reclaim that confidence with formulations founded in clinical research and real-world results. This chapter of life might be full of changes, but with me and Megi on your side, I hope you now feel confident in knowing your hair doesn't have to be one of them. And more information on all of my clinical services can be found at lieblinghealth.com. I will see you next time.